When we talk about a narcissist, narcissism, narcissistic abuse, and people with NPD don't have a sex. The clown is the clown, the creature is the creature. In today's video, we're going to hear from a survivor that is and has survived a 16-year manipulationship relation, you guys know, relation, SHIT, with a narcissist female. I am eager to share this story because, in my opinion, there aren't enough men putting the narcissist female on spotlight or exposing the truth about what really happens behind this. And in this video, we're going to focus more on the covert narcissist symptoms or behaviors that you will see in a narcissist female. And this story does something for me internally. I am healing from narcissistic abuse. I am also a daughter of a narcissistic mother from a narcissistic culture. The conditioning for me is so deep. So hearing some of this, I couldn't help but to sit back and say, oh my God, what about what I'm hearing do I see in myself? This is what healing is about, guys. Is for those of us who've been through this so deeply, we have to be careful that we are not allowing the traits we've learned and the conditioning that we've been conditioned under to blind us from our own character flaws. I'll just put it like that. Part of healing is taking accountability for what you're doing. I'm one of those people that believe that narcissistic traits is in all of us in some kind of way, because all humans have issues with ego, pride, confidence, self-esteem. We all need validation. We all want to be heard and admired and sought after and all of that. We all care about our image in a certain way and you know, all of that, right? And so as you grow in life, relationships, they either make you or break you. If you've ever been around narcissistic people, if you were brought up by these people, or if society has influenced narcissism inside of you, you won't be able to avoid that you need to face your own flaws and issues and work on them. And this story, for me and to all women, I think it's important to listen to, because a lot of what you're going to hear, it may sound like, well, she's a woman. That's what we do. I used to think that a lot of things that I did was okay and normal, and not realizing how toxic it actually was. This is part of the healing journey, being able to embrace harshly your truth and what you need to work on, because a narcissist does so much that until you're awoken and educated, the things they do, it will change you. It will affect your character. It will make you almost like them. And I'm speaking from someone who has been dealing with these type of people my whole life. My biggest battle has been to protect myself, fight these demons from off of me, in me, around me, so that they do not take over me. Share your thoughts in the comments. Like the video, share the content, but let's get right into today's story. Thank you so much for being here, guys. If you are interested in booking your free interview with me to share your story, please look in the description box below. All right, come along with me and let's listen to this wonderful story with our Thriver. What's up, Thriver? I'm so happy that you're here. So happy that you want to share your story. I would like to start the conversation off by asking you, what really drew you to want to tell your story? What has been happening, or what has occurred, or what brought you to this very moment?
So, um, typically, as we stated before, we started talking now. Um, I went to school for therapy. I was studying to become a therapist. And a lot of times when you're in that mode or you're learning about certain things, certain professions, you don't really know that you may yourself be going through it.
Hmm.
So I'm learning about it, but over the years, I was like, I'm not going to go through that. That'll never be me.
Oh, yeah.
And you learn over time. At least with this in particular, I learned about what's called a covert or covert narcissist, where
Hmm.
it's like it's kind of hard to see when it's actually happening.
Hmm.
And I've always been one to share. Like I'm not nervous to share my emotions to anyone, but at the same time, I am growing up, or I did grow up as obviously a black male, and I had my father in my life, but he was involved in certain things when he was young, street life, but he also was a military guy. So you
Okay.
start to learn. It kind of gets difficult to share your emotions really, because it's almost like in our community at some point, especially with men, it's kind of frowned upon. If you
Mm.
say you're sad or you feel a certain way, you kind of just deal with it. You man up and you deal with it.
Hmm.
And luckily, with me being in school for therapy, I learned it's not good to keep those feelings and emotions bottled up, because a lot of the people I would work with were individuals who grew up just like me or just like my dad, and they would tell me all their secrets and the things they were dealing with and how it was kind of eating them up inside. And so
Mm.
for me, I was just like, well, I'm dealing with similar things within my relationship. And I was like, it's not a good thing for me to just hold this in. I got to talk to somebody, because usually I'm the one giving the direction. I'm the one talking to people, helping them out. But I started thinking, like, I don't have anybody to talk to about this. Like,
Mm.
it's just me. So I started researching and looking around and finding different things. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to share, what I'm going through, because somebody else might be able to see this and they may get something from it. So,
Okay. Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. And so, what have you experienced with the narcissist? Is this family? Is this a relationship? Both, maybe?
uh, more so relationship. Um,
Okay.
and I can kind of give the rundown on it. I could be as brief as possible, but essentially, I was with this individual for 16 years,
Mm.
and we weren't married. We got together. We were 19. I'm 36 now, and just over the years, because in my family, I grew up. I was the helper, kind of like, even though I'm the youngest one, I was the one everybody came to when something would go wrong. Uh, I was a pretty smart kid, and I don't know, but I kept to myself a lot. I was really level headed. My family comes from, the street world, and, they, a lot of them could be on some other stuff sometimes, but I never was like that. So I would always hear that I had a pretty good head on my shoulders. I was in sports, and, my family kind of kept me out of certain things.
Hmm.
But I started learning too. I have this issue with, I guess you could say, over caring or being a little too nice, because
Mm.
I don't like to see people hurt, and if I can help you, then I will. And I learned throughout this relationship that I feel like I was kind of enabling certain things on her end, on my girlfriend's end at the time. And uh, as years went on, like I said, that covert narcissism, it started to kind of rear its head in certain moments. I would notice little things here and there when she'd get upset. The things that we shared and, thinking that it's in confidence is just between us two. I'll never hold this against you. I'll never this, I'll never that. When she gets upset, those things come out. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, hold on. I thought you wouldn't. Why are you throwing that in my face? Or, I shared this with you because I really felt the way. And I just started noticing little tidbits of pretty much, if I wasn't doing what she wanted, then these temper tantrums would come,
Mm.
or really aggressive. And it's like really passive aggressive. That's what I started to notice, because she's really quiet and she's really nice to a lot of people. But when we get into it, it would be subtle things she would do. And I guess, like I said, maybe year 14 is when I really just kind of started taking a stand and being like, you know what? No, I'm not letting that ride. I'm not going to let you keep throwing these little things or these little shots at me. And I think a lot of it had to do with me because of uh, I had a health scare a few years ago, and I kind of felt like I was in a kind of helpless in a sense. I was in the hospital for a few years, bedridden, all this stuff. I had a lot of medical things going on, and she was there. But I remember even during that particular moment, uh, there was one time I was at home and I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, and my body was kind of shutting down. And she came home one day and she made a statement like, you know, maybe you should just go live with your parents. And I was like, what? We were in year like 8 at this point. And I'm like, you know, of course, I'm not able to talk at this point. I'm still going through medical things. And I remember just looking at her. And she was like, yeah, this is just too much for me. I can't handle this. And then she leaves. I'm in the bedroom by myself and she's gone. I don't know where she went. I knew she was gone for longer. It was at least a day because I remember it was dark outside. And then when I actually like woke up, it was daylight. She was still gone. And I just remember that moment. And I started thinking to myself, like, wait, you know, did you leave? Or in my mind, did she leave because I did something wrong? Or I just didn't know at the time. But then over the years, as we, you know, we stayed together, kind of got through it, I got better. And then I started noticing more of these little, I guess, the signs of if I don't do what she wants, then the temper tantrums or the passive aggressiveness, the silent treatment. Days at a time, she'll get upset and be gone for 3-4 days. And I'm asking, where did you go? Why did you leave? All this stuff. And mind you, in our relationship, it was never like I was never one of those guys that was like a pushover. It was never one of those where, okay, he's soft, he's just not saying anything. It was never that. But it would be subtle, like little subtle things where it gets to the point where with me, I don't like argue. I'm not going to fight with you, and I know relationships. Sometimes you get into it with the person you're with. Maybe you need time to blow off steam. Maybe you need to go for a drive or go for a walk. That happens. Mm-hmm. But it just became to a point where I'm like, okay, even though you're doing this, you're not telling me what's going on. You're not telling me that you're upset about X, Y, and Z. You just get mad and then you leave. And I started paying attention more. And as I'm kind of getting to the part of where I really started recognizing what was going on, I started questioning her about infidelity. There were certain things that I started noticing, and every time we'd have those conversations, I'm just asking questions. I'm not, yelling, screaming, because that's not the type of guy that I am. I'm just like, no, I really want to know. We've been together for this long. We can at least keep it real with one another. You've been caught. Yeah. Let's just talk about it. Like, let's talk about what happened, and as soon as we get to a part where she gets uncomfortable, the conversation changes. We'll be talking about a situation with her, and then it'll turn into, well, when I texted you the other day, you didn't pick up or you didn't respond back in this amount of time. What were you doing? What were you? And it turns into now you're trying to flip it on me, and then you find a way to leave. Now I can leave the argument. I can go and do whatever. And then when she comes back, it's literally like nothing happened. There is no conversation. There is no, okay, I'm explaining what went on, no apology, nothing. It's just, okay, let's back to square one. And I'm just like, okay. And I know I'm rambling at this point, but it was essentially out of that.
Yeah. So just to cut you off real quick. So hold that thought, because I have so many things going through my head. First, I just want to know, if you are able, you said, I think I used to enable her a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you think what type of things were you doing? Even if it was from the beginning, what do you remember you used to do or you used to say? How did you handle her before? And then also, how was she with you when you were like enabled? Like how did that play out? If you can give me an example.
Okay. So I guess I can say number one, it started with, kind of like when I was growing up, and I think a lot of men, and I'm not trying to make this a men and women thing, it's nothing like that, but it's just the mindset of a lot of men when we were growing up. For instance, like if you see a guy with his daughter and a guy with his son. You know, he has 2 kids, one, boy, girl. When the boy cries and, man up, you got to take it off. You're okay, this and that. When the girl cries, oh, baby, what's wrong? The coddling kind of can happen. And not to say that everybody does that, but that was something that
Yeah,
I
I
noticed when
got
I
you.
was a kid. And so naturally, I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously if this happens, she's crying. I have a sister, I got girl cousins and, mom, aunts, all that. You don't want to see them in distress. Just as a man, like we kind of, at least for me, when I would hear my mom, her voice raise or my sister's crying or whatever, like I get this instinct of like, I need to do something. Like she
Okay,
needs help. So,
got you.
um, with my girlfriend at the time, uh, I learned this was I don't know what it was necessarily called, but it was like when we talk about something that she did, like infidelity or lying, whatever it was, it could be even small. If she cries, now my heart is like, oh, okay, I don't want her crying.
Mm,
I don't want to make her feel whatever. And so it's like instead
mm,
of saying how I really felt, you know what, it's all right. Don't even worry about it. Let's not talk about it. Obviously, you upset about it, and it started from that. And so I can't say it was the infidelity at the beginning, but it was more so the lack of communication. I'm really big on that. Because we were young at that point when we first got together. So she's going out to clubs and and I'm not a party guy. I don't smoke. I don't drink. That just wasn't me. And plus, I was in sports, so even being around that, you kind of get tired of it. If you playing college ball, like you do that all the time, and that gets old after a while. So she's into it though. She's still into that. And when she would go, like I'm not trying to figure out where you are every minute, but you're going downtown. At least let me know like what area you're going to be in. So if something happens, at least I know where to go. If you call me,
yeah.
and there was one day she was there and something happened where she was with like one of her friends, I guess. And um, I don't know if she was like dancing with another dude or something was going on that was kind of off putting. And one of her friends was dating a guy that I know. And the guy ends up messaging me. He's like, hey, man, are you here at the club? I was like, nah, what are you talking about? And he's like, nah, I see your girl here, yeah, come over here at our table, man. Me and my girl, we here, come kick it with us. I was like, I'm not at the club. I don't know what you're talking about. And then he got
Mm,
quiet. He ends up calling me and he's quiet about it. I'm like, wait, what did you get quiet for? He's like, oh man, and I've been knowing this guy for a really long time. So he's like, hey man, I'm not trying to, cause no issue, but like she in here with this dude, they like grinding and she kissing on this guy, and I'm like, wait, what? So of
mm,
course I'm, you
ooh,
know, kind of like maybe it's, of course in denial or whatever. Maybe he talking about somebody else, and maybe they at the club. It ain't what he's saying. But she comes home. You start talking about what happened when she went out, and her friend is with her, the girlfriend of my homeboy. And I asked her about it. I said, "Hey, so was you like, who was the dude you was with at the club? This and that." She immediately gets quiet, doesn't say anything. So I've learned this from her too. When she gets quiet, she's caught. Usually with her, like if she starts denying, she's telling the truth. She'll be like, no, I'm adamant. She didn't do something, whatever. She'll start talking. But when she gets quiet, okay, now she's like, I'm trying to hear what he knows, trying to see if he
ooh.
knows certain stuff. So,
That's a good one.
yeah. So she ends up saying, uh, no, I wasn't. Well, I mean, I wasn't we weren't doing anything. We were just dancing. People just go dance this and that. And her friend, I don't know if you would call her a friend, but her friend was like, uh, yeah, no, let let him know what happened. So we all have been, friends for a while, like kind of the couple friend thing or whatever. And they had this particular couple had been through a lot of stuff. So we were all fairly close.
Mm,
And when this was going on, the friend, I'm learning later on that like, my girlfriend at the time,
that's
the
it.
friend, she ends up, we're all kind of close. And so the friend is like, no, the girl who I'm dating, she's like, yeah, and we were just, we were at a club, we're just dancing, having fun. It's not a big deal or whatever.
Mhm.
And the friend is like, okay, nah, we're not gonna do none of that, you know. obviously you caught. He told you he knows X, Y, and Z. You need to go ahead and just say what it is, because I was getting pissed off at this point. Like, I'm hearing her just talk, and I'm just sitting there like, so you literally just gonna lie in my face like this? And the friend is like, pretty much, be honest with him, tell him what happened. And so as she's talking, she finally tries to start telling the truth, and then it turns into, as I'm questioning, like, okay, well, this guy, how long have you been knowing him, this and that? Uh, the tears come. She starts crying and all this other stuff. And at this point, I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I'm not even falling for that. And then a couple days goes by, I break up with her. Like, we're done. I'm pissed off at that. I leave. So maybe a week or so passes since we've been broken up, and I get a phone call from uh, one of my friends, I'll say. And he's like, hey, man, can you come to my house? And I'm like, for what? What's going on? And he said, yo, old girl is over here. She's crying. She's saying you won't talk to her. She's been blowing your phone up. She came over here, and now she ain't, she's not leaving. I don't really know what to say to her, because I didn't tell him what happened. Like, I didn't tell him that he knows about, obviously what happened at the club and all that, but he doesn't know that me and her had a conversation about it and that we actually broke up. I didn't tell him anything. I just went through it and then I left. And so he's confused when she comes to the house. And so I pull up, and as soon as I get there, I'm seeing him, like, her and him are in the house, like they walk inside and they're talking or whatever. And then he texts me and he said, hey, man, just wait outside for a minute. I'm going to try to calm her down because she's really tripping. And I was like, okay. So I'm waiting. Then he calls me and he says, yo, she talking about like hurting herself, like talking about offering herself and this and that. And I'm like, what? So of course, my mind goes to this, the manipulation part. So I'm like, man, it ain't that serious to me. Like, we not together, but God, like, yo, it's not killing yourself. Like, what? So I end up talking to her. We kind of, I don't know. I just felt uncomfortable with that because, again, number one, I worked with people who really had mental health issues, and I know how serious that can be. And so my mind is going every. Plus, I'm really young at the time too, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't want that. I'm not trying to have no issue like that. Let me go talk to her, and kind of like, I don't know if it was the sympathy thing I felt, but I just stayed. We started talking, and over time we kind of started dealing with each other again. And I know people probably listen to this, man, this dude crazy. Why would you even? I'm
You
like,
got Hooper. No,
yeah, exactly.
people are gonna listen to this and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, that was me." Especially
Yeah,
a lot of men who can't talk about this. You got hoovered by her crocodile damn tears.
right. And it's
Professional
again,
actors.
right. And that's what I tell people. Like, the thing of, I've been around a lot of death. Obviously where my family comes from and how my family is, things like how my upbringing was. I've seen a lot of people, lose their lives for many different reasons. Some I'm thinking, of course, some of it's stupid, some of it is just violence, some of it is just, mental health stuff. It's a whole bunch of things, but I've seen a lot of people pass away in person, like being there, watching it happen. So, and she's aware of this, and this is what I'm talking about. Like, you learn, people who are this way, some individuals who have bouts of narcissism or who are narcissistic, they will play on your emotions.
They do
She
their
knows,
homework.
and she knew a
Yeah.
lot of the things that I had seen. So of course, in my
Wow.
mind, I'm thinking, oh, that was why she said what she said. That was why she said, oh, I'm finna hurt myself or this. I know I'm gonna get to him this way, because she was calling me and I wasn't picking up. But when
Mm-hmm.
my friend tells me this, and now I'm talking to him, and she's like, in my mind, this is what I'm thinking she's thinking. If I say this, then I can get him to, okay, he'll speak to me. And
Yeah.
it worked. And that was, so I know I kind of got off, but that was pretty much like the point of, I guess, when you asked earlier about, in
Yeah.
almost like a manipulation tactic, or an
Mhm.
example of me kind of giving in or enabling the behavior. I should have nipped it in the bud right there.
Gotcha.
Um,
Gotcha.
but I tried to, but I didn't. But I also will say this too, to other individuals, kind of like throwing out a little advice. I don't like doing the shoulda, woulda, coulda. Really, I kind of try to stay away from that only because number one, you can't go back and change anything. That's one in anything in life. But secondly, and this is not really dark, but my sense of humor is a little different. But I always say, man, if you didn't die, it wasn't that bad. That's just I look at it
But
like that
did you
because
die? You ever
yeah,
heard
yeah, that.
that? Did
Now
you
if
die?
it's right, if it's a friend who pushed me off a cliff and I didn't die, but I broke all my butt, like, hold on, dog, that don't mean nothing. But I mean, I look at it
Yeah.
like that because I'm like,
It's
you
called
can't change
resilience.
anything. Yeah,
It's called resilience. That's what I call it.
right. Anything?
I
I don't
love
want
that.
to.
I love that because there's a sense of gratitude coming from that, right? It's like saying, I appreciate life for what it is, what it has brought me, good, bad, and ugly, because it has made me who I am right now.
Right.
Simple. Because if I would have went back and changed stuff and dib and dabbed and things, I would have probably ended up somewhere else. So it's like,
Exactly.
hey, be grateful for where you're at and how you got there, because it could have been different. It could have been a whole different outcome. So I think that's just gratitude. It's just being thankful. Being thankful. But I do want to just kind of twist this around a little bit and go gear towards another question that I have for you. As far as, people talk about red flags all the time. Why ain't you
Mhm.
see it? Because you said 16 years, that's a long time. A lot of people have done what I call sentence, like a prison bid with this. Like, that's a 16-year bid in my eyes. So I'm just like,
Right.
because I know you mentioned, things started to kind of heat up as far as her behaviors and the mask slipping, and
Mhm.
her, indicating to you that she was really more toxic than you ever noticed. But thinking back now, like in the earlier stages, I know you guys met when you were young. So, reasonably, in a reasonable time frame, what are some of the things that might have been red flags?
Um, Number one, the not wanting to have a conversation, or not even going to say that. Accountability, the lack of accountability. That early on was something that I kind of I saw, and I guess I kind of ignored it
Okay.
because, like I said, there were things that would happen, like um if you do something, like obviously we get into an argument and we have a back and forth because of something you said that was maybe reckless, or you said something because you were just out of anger.
Hmm.
I would ask them, sometimes, why did you say that? What drove you to say what you said, or why, whatever. And the conversation would kind of just go past. Sometimes we just say stuff we don't mean. It would just be that. I'm like, okay, whatever. No big deal. But that was the main thing. Like I said, the lack of accountability. When things like that would happen, there is no real explanation. And then over time, I started learning, instead of just kind of brushing over it, it would be, I'm just going to leave. I'm going to leave the room, or I'm going to
Okay.
go and get in
I'm
my
glad
car.
you
So
said that.
yeah,
Okay.
those things of avoiding accountability. That's the biggest thing, and I think a lot of people miss early on in
Mhm.
relationships, because you're in the honeymoon stage. Like you like each
Yeah.
other and probably doing all kinds of stuff at the beginning. You're having fun, all this other stuff, and it's like you'll look past it because it ain't that bad. Yeah, all
Yeah.
right, and it catches
Yeah.
up with you, and you're just like, dang. Now I look back after you asked that question, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff that I just overlooked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love that you said that.
Yeah, a lot of I just don't want to talk about it,
Okay.
and
Yeah. Because I
or
want clarity. Because, a lot of times when we're having conversations about narcissists and how they've handled their victims, especially in the love relationships, we got to consider that we're talking about male and female. And sometimes some of the things they do, it sounds like typical things that a man or a woman would do, like depending on what was going on, like what caused that reaction. Because in my opinion, humans have some of these traits, right? And that's what makes narcissism a little bit complicated sometimes, because you may doubt what you're seeing, because you may think, okay, well, maybe this is just somebody who's overreacting or having a hard time, you know, um, understanding my point of view, but with a narcissist is way deeper than that. Like, it's like, wait, hold on, this person is really just completely broken to the extent where they'll never see your point of view. They'll never take accountability that they're wrong. They'll like, it's like, okay. So just want to get that clarity. So I'm glad that you put that out there. Any other red flags that come to mind?
Over time, it was more like not only, of course, avoiding the conversation, but then the lying. Like, it was sometimes there would be lies that would just be for no reason. Like, I'm just like, for why did you lie about that? Like, we already talked about just I guess an example of one of the issues that I ran into. And just one, but it happened multiple times, and I hate saying this because it kind of sheds some dark light on her, but it happened. Going out to places, and this is for men and women. When you go somewhere and you're around the opposite sex, obviously if you're in a relationship where it's opposite sex dating one another, or any type of sex, whatever you're into, when you go into a place and you're meeting people and you learn maybe over some time, by the way, the guy that I introduced you to, we used to do a lot of this and that, back in the day. Why did you introduce me to him? You went out of your way to introduce me to this person that you supposedly don't talk to at all. Why would you do that? It was a lot of that where I've gone, and I played sports out here or where I'm from, and I was known. I was a really known athlete, and I know a lot of people. So sometimes when we have these conversations, or there's a guy in question or whatever, she's probably thinking, oh, well, we went to opposite schools or this and that. He probably don't know this person. I know damn near everybody. If you play sports at a certain time frame, I probably know you. I've been played everywhere. So it would be those things. I'm going to a meeting and meet with somebody, and I learned that, y'all had a situation in the past, and I'm just like, okay, well, why didn't you tell me that before you introduced me to this person? Because now it's like I'm talking to the guy, and he's uncomfortable because he's like, well, why? I don't know why she would introduce me to you, knowing that we, did X, Y, and Z. And then they're also like, too, because this happened a couple times where they're like, why? That makes me feel funny because now doing business with you, are you gonna feel away? And the fact that she didn't tell you that this happened, or just those things. Like, I've had multiple situations where I've been in a room or rooms with people and getting ready to conduct business or whatever it is, and I get an awkward look. I'm like, why? Why is, we all have been in those moments where you go somewhere and somebody look at you away, and you're like, wait, why do you look at me like that? And then we have a conversation, and then I'm like, I ask about the guy. Did y'all have something going on? It's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek, kind of joking manner. Did y'all like have a relationship or something? Oh, no, he was just my friend. He was this and all this other stuff. And then fast forward, I learned, hold up, y'all did do something, something. However I learned it, how I learned, I'll keep quiet. It wasn't me like digging or anything like that, but it's like, again, these supposed friends she got. A lot of the information I got was from a particular friend of her. And of course, people will be like, oh, that girl just wanted you. That could be the case, but she wasn't lying about nothing either. Because a lot of things that I found out was the truth. Like, I learned after we talked about it and kind of started thinking about things, like, hold on, what she told me was, she was being honest. She was telling me the truth. You were lying. And so why were you lying about that? I'm not an insecure guy or a jealous guy, nothing like that. But I'm like, if you introducing me to somebody and this is about business or whatever it is, and maybe you want me to meet this person because it may be an opportunity for me, vice versa, whatever. Like, let me know what it is up front. Just tell me. I'm not gonna get mad at that. If it's past stuff, I'm not thinking about it like that. Plus, I got with you after high school, like literally after we graduated. Me and you together. Y'all's relationship couldn't have been that serious in your high school years. Like, I don't think it's that deep. Like, I talked to this guy when I was a sophomore in high school. Okay, that's high school stuff. I'm not tripping on that.
Right.
But if
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
learning that you in communication with this guy and we've been together for 5, 6 years, and wait a minute, well, I thought,
when
why are
did
you
you
talking
have
to him?
time? Yeah, when, at what point, and when did you, like, when did this
Right.
happen?
And
Right?
then the question
Gosh,
becomes, when did it stop? Did it stop?
or did it
Because
stop?
me and you've been together for this long. How are y'all still communicating? But the funny thing is like with men are very territorial, and a lot of other men know this too. Some, I'm gonna say the smart men. Usually, if a man has a woman or whatever, or he's dating her, and we know that we had something between us at one point, I'm not about to go out of my way to talk to any woman and I see her with a guy. And if we had like some sort of relationship or something, I'm not going out of my way to talk to her because I know if some point my name comes up and she says something or something comes out or whatever, he might get mad to the point where, and we've seen this every day, men hurt each other. People will fight. I know a lot of women will fight and this and that,
Yeah,
but
men
men
got
will argue
egos,
for their woman, man. Like they will.
prides. Yeah.
And so I try to stay out of that type of stuff. And that's the thing. So some of these men who I've seen, they would feel away. They'd be like, "Look, man, and I'm not a little guy. I'm a pretty tall dude. I'm like 6'6". Kind of got some weight to me. So I'm not a guy that the average person isn't going to walk up to me and try to, stick his chest out and do all that extra. So, some men act like that. I'm not one of those guys that just because of my stature.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of would help me get through some of those situations too. Cause some of these guys would be like, man, I don't want any problems. They apologetic from jump. And I'm like, what are you apologizing for?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, I just don't want any issue. I'm like, I don't want an issue, man. I'm here conducting business. But it's the reason they're doing that is because they know the past and they
Mm-hmm.
know that, my girl at the time and them had a history or whatever. I'm not knowing none of this. So of course, when I learn about it, then I start thinking, oh, this is why he was acting like that. Or if we go to an event and I see a guy and clearly I know she knows this guy, but this time when I show up, they don't speak. Like, yeah, that's awkward. And then later on, we find out, okay, well, this is why they actually did have something that happened, and it's a lot of that. And
Yeah.
again, it's one of those like when you're in a relationship, I always tell people, especially these situations, I'm in the eye of the storm. Everybody from the outside always says what they would or wouldn't do until it happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
We all think we know everything. Oh, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do that.
Ain't
Okay,
that
and
the
you
truth,
find
though?
that, man, because
Yeah,
I've seen that
that's the
happen a
truth.
lot.
I do want to ask you a couple of things real quick. This is so interesting. So, do you think that, or do you notice now looking back that maybe her narcissism affected some of her characteristics or qualities, I should say? Like, what type of woman was she? We got women that are clean, you got some that are OCD, you got some that are lazy. What type of woman was she? Because I know you spent quite a long time with her. So how did she move as far as just taking care of herself, taking care of the house, and just doing womanly type things?
I don't mean to laugh, but as soon as you said that, when you said certain words, I started laughing because I've had this conversation with a few people.
Mm.
Um, I'm gonna say it's a lot of cosplay. I'll say that the mask,
It's
the
a
narcissist mask that people wear. A narcissist will have a mask they put on.
mm-hmm.
And cosplay is kind of the same thing. I don't know if you know what that is, but
You
uh,
said cosplay. Tell me,
yeah.
enlighten me, dear
Okay,
friend.
so cosplay is like uh, you've seen like Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
So they'll have these events where like uh, people will go dressed up as superheroes, and
Mm-hmm.
it's called cosplay, like costume play. They
Oh,
go in
okay.
and they dress up like they're this hero. They'll act it out. Like sometimes there's a dude I saw, he actually built like a spider web and was trying to jump from building to building. Like they really go all out.
Wow. Okay.
So she was a great actress. I'll say that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Initially, but there were things again. So when you said OCD, I got diagnosed with OCD when I was a kid. It was like different forms
Okay.
of it, but I real particular about a lot of things, and I think that got instilled with my parents too. Because military, you got to do everything right.
I can
Otherwise it's
see that.
consequence. So
I can see that. Okay.
I remember us being together, like when we first moved in together. This is probably like year 2 or 3. I'll say 2 because I was in college and I just came back home and still trying, figure out life from school and all that. So we moved in together. And I just remember noticing like her room was always messy, always. Uh, and then it got to the point, over time again, because we're younger, we're always out. We both are athletes, doing stuff, whatever. So I'm not really thinking much of it because it was never like I never noticed anything that was really off-putting. Like it was never like any weird smells in the house, anything like that. But then I started looking over time, like as she got more comfortable with me, dishes would pile up in the sink. And I'm not really worried about the dishes part. And I've always been too, because how my dad was, like we don't have that thing, okay, no, the woman should be cooking and cleaning this. No, if you able bodied, you get up and you see the dishes, you clean the dishes. Like that's how we are. My mom and my dad were like that. I'm still that way. She's never had to be, it's never been a point where, okay, the dishes are piled up because I just don't want to do them. That's your job. Nah, if I see it and it's in there, I'm cleaning it up because I live here too. And you might be tired. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't putting all that on you.
Yeah.
So I started noticing as I would clean up stuff, she would get comfortable and then the laziness, she would be lazy around the house. Now, work ethic, she will work. She got that down pack. She will do her job right. Very, adamant about going to work, doing what she need to do. She got a really good paying job as well. She's really into doing that, but just like it's not. I guess the saying or feng shui when people talk about that, like how your home can really match your internal in a sense, like it has a lot to do with that. I started looking at that because just the room aspect, like when we moved, because we've been together for this long, so now we got our officially like a pretty decent spot, and I ended up putting most of my stuff in the other room. We had a 4-bedroom place. I put all my stuff in another room because I'm like, I don't want to be in this clutter with your stuff. I just don't want that. So over time, I'm just learning. Okay, maybe she's just like this. Because I was like, she's not a dirty person, But it started to kind of be off-putting after a while when I'm going into like say, because even with the bathroom, like I didn't share a bathroom with her. Because she, hair stuff all over the place. I ain't trying to deal with that. I just want to get in the shower and get out. Like I go in her bathroom and there's hair stuff all over the place. One day I walked in and I was like, the shower was dirty, and I'm like, yo, can you? Okay, maybe she gonna clean that. Months go by, still dirty. So now I'm cleaning her shower. I'm cleaning the other one because we had a couple bathrooms. I'm cleaning the other one. But it was always that, and so I remember learning too with her. I'm gonna say her dad. He used to get on her about that. He said when they were growing up, like her and her siblings, they had an issue with cleaning up. He's not their biological dad though. That's the thing, he's stepfather. But he would always say that, like he had to get on them all the time about cleaning up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we older. She gonna get out of that. I was wrong. Like, even now, and because I'm in it, and I'll get to this, I'm sure, because I know we got a little bit of time left. But like, there's a big twist to this too.
Oh shoot.
Yeah, but I'll just say, like, yeah, the thing of the cleanliness and looking at how she operated, like as I'm going through life and I'm looking at things, I'm like, it shows a lot. I'm really a big believer in that. How you keep your home or how you keep the place that you stay is a big reflection of who you are as a person. If you have all your stuff all over the place, a lot of times your mind can be very convoluted.
Absolutely.
You got a lot of things because you're not keeping anything in order. There's a lot of chaos. And
absolutely.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah. That
Mm-hmm.
mask, that narcissist mask, that, it starts to fall when you start going up there. Hey, look, we can't keep throwing this stuff in the closet. Ain't no more room in there. Now we got to clean up everything that's here. You get to that point, a lot of times with narcissists, especially when it's a long-term thing, it's one of the yeah, because this, I guess the biggest thing, the easiest thing I could compare it to is I've watched a show like Hoarders or something like that.
Hoarders. I'm thinking about Hoarders the whole time you're saying this. Because
Yeah,
I've always linked that to narcissism. I mean, it's a very deep trait. I asked you this question for a reason, so I'm so glad this is all kind of blossoming out of the question, because I
mhm,
know a lot of people will relate to what I'm getting to here. They are hoarders. They like chaos. They need chaos. They need distraction. That's really what it is. And it's like, to me, there's a spiritual aspect to that. It's like your mind is not at rest. You don't
right.
have peace, and so you're not able to stay neat. You can't be neat and function in a certain way when you're always concocting manipulation and lies and, like, yeah. I digress. I
Yeah,
digress. But
it's a lot.
you hit it on the head though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why y'all didn't get married over 16 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk
um,
about that a bit.
so number one, I can be honest. I grew up in a initially. So my biological parents weren't married. When I was born, they were together, but they weren't actually married. And my mom and dad, they weren't in the same household when I was being raised. It was joint custody. Uh, and then I saw too, like when they would try to, some people say we try to make it work for the kids. And I just want to let everybody know this too, because I don't have kids. Um,
Mhm.
but I will say, um, with me working with families and things like that, kids see all of the stuff that y'all do, the fighting, the uncomfortable moments, the issues that y'all are
Everything.
having, y'all trying to keep quiet. We see all of it. And I
Everything.
remember just being a kid, I noticed a lot of that. So I can be honest, I didn't grow up, in a 2-parent household like that. I ended up, getting a stepmother who was like my biological mom. Like, she treated me as such. But just remembering seeing my mom and my dad like interact when I was a younger,
Mhm.
it was kind of off putting to want to be married and all, because I didn't understand it. And then also too, my family, they weren't really in the church like that, but they were Christians. Some of my grandparents, they went to church religiously, but my dad wasn't really into it like that, so I didn't go a lot. And I just always associated, obviously church, you get married as a part of, just a part of that whole thing. I didn't grow up like that,
Okay.
so I never looked at it like, okay, I need this ring to show my commitment to you. And I guess that was a biblical thing, like it's symbolism. I didn't
It
know about it
is.
at the time, but now I know. I'm aware
Yeah.
of it now, but just then it wasn't a thing. So I say all that to say, we had conversations about marriage. And maybe like year 4, I was like, you know what? I thought about it. I said, you know what? I'm gonna propose. I think this is something she wants. I don't mind doing that because it wasn't as bad. I know what I'm saying now. It seems like it was terrible the entire time. It wasn't. It's just hindsight. It was horrible. But in the
Mhm.
beginning, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, okay, well, I think she wants this. I don't mind, going, trying to do that and go that route. Marriage. I talked to my dad about it. He's married to my stepmom, and he told me, what he did, what he feels, about marriage and all that. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I don't mind. Like, I love her, and we're together. And then I just started seeing these little qualities, like you said, the thing of the cleanliness when we got together. So technically, we were engaged.
Okay.
uh, when we moved into our new spot, I started noticing the lack of cleanliness.
Okay.
The mask, I want to say the narcissist mask started to slip a little bit. Now the attitude is coming out. Now
Mhm.
the meaning comments, and then I'm learning about, like I said earlier, about the infidelity part. I guess I
Yeah.
forgot to put in there. I'm not learning this stuff real time. So imagine somebody cheating on you year 2 of your relationship. You've been together for 16 years. I learned about this. So year 2, you cheated. I learned about your cheating year 8.
Mm.
Like, I'm learning about a lot of stuff later. So of course now your mindset is, I love this person. I want to be with them. But then like a little monkey wrench gets thrown in. Wait a minute. A few years ago, this happened. You can't, it's hard to change your feelings, because up to this point, I'm thinking everything is fine. But then
Yeah.
you learn later, like, oh, hold up. No, this happened back at that point. I'm like, wait a minute. Now my mind is man, can I believe anything she said? Is
The
this
trust
true?
is dwindling down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was the main reason the marriage didn't happen. And
Okay.
we ended up talking about it, and she was saying she felt the same way as me because she came from a broken home essentially too. And we both were just like, well, we don't really need the marriage thing to kind of show that we're with one another. I just never felt like I needed to do that. It seemed like she was in agreement of that. Then is when the switch flipped. I want to say maybe because we recently ended things like 2 months ago.
Okay.
But the flip of the switch was she talks to one of her homegirls or friends, whoever, I don't know. And I end up learning after even talking to her that she did actually want marriage and she wanted kids and all this. But I'm like, you didn't tell me none of that. You didn't say that that was a priority. Actually, when we talked about it just last year, I mean, if we get married, that's cool. But if not, and we don't need to have this big ceremony, I was like, shit, we can just go to a courthouse and do that. Like, I'm cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned, like I said, recently, well, no, I wanted a wedding. I wanted this. I wanted kids. I wanted all this. And I'm like, so this whole time you telling me you didn't care about none of that. But I'm still asking, because I know sometimes people say things, but I'm just like, no, we're going to talk about that. That's a big deal. If you really want that, I would advise you to say that because you're getting older, as am I. But the thing that's different with, I'm like, yo, as a woman, you have a time clock. You got a certain amount of time to do certain things. And so, and so I tried to let her know, like, yo, if you want to do that, let me know. I'm with whatever. But then this is when, like I said, I started learning the incident with her, the first little infidelity situation happened that I explained earlier. I learned about that, fairly early. But like I said, we're young, get past it, whatever. But I started learning more, like I said, about these guys and the meetings I'm going to, these rooms I'm in. I'm learning this towards the tail end of our relationship. So now when we talk about the trust being broken, wait, you've been lying for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years? Like, so in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, how do you just erase all this stuff? I thought my reality was one thing. But now I got to go back and think like, wait, I can't trust you at all because everything I'm thinking of, you were lying the whole time. And then I started getting distant. I can admit that. I started sleeping in the other room. I had an ailment too, something that went on. I had a health scare, but I'll just say I had a really bad health scare. And I felt so uncomfortable sharing my feelings with her because, and I'll just say anybody in a relationship, when you're with someone and you go through your toughest times, typically the person you're dating, you can confide in them. They'll be there for you. They'll have your back. What I went through I just throw it out. I had a health scare to the point where they pretty much they had told me I have a certain amount of time. I just put it like that. They ended up being wrong. It was a misdiagnosis. But at that point, from the time that they gave me would have been this month of this year. It was what was supposedly going to be the time that I was going to go.
Wow.
But I remember just when I got told that news last year, just thinking like I'm trying to tell her how I'm feeling. And I remember the first time I tried to talk to her, it was, you always bringing up stuff pertaining to our relationship. I was like, I'm not talking about us. I'm saying I feel like I think we need to have a conversation because I'm going through something. She just automatically turns it into, well, you always got an issue with me. I'm like, ain't nobody got no issue. This has nothing to do with you, actually. This is something that I went to my doctor today, and this is serious. I need to talk to you about just how I'm feeling. You know what? I don't even want to hear it. It's always something. Okay. So now imagine getting that news and then learning like you go to your doctor every couple of weeks and you're telling them, I'm alone in this, and they're like, what do you mean? I know you got a girlfriend, right? Yeah, but she's not hearing me. It's just me. I got to go through this alone. So to learn to literally hear, man, you got about 8 months. And I'm sleeping in the other room and I'm sitting here like, man, I'm really going through this. I'm not telling nobody. Nobody knows about what I'm dealing with other than my doctor. And he says to me, my therapist ends up saying to me one day, he's like, how come you didn't tell anybody? Why, you didn't talk to anyone about this? And I was like, man, I can't trust nobody. The one person who I had in my life for 16 years, I can't trust her. I don't want to share I can't trust her with my happiness, and I can't trust her with my pain. If I can't trust you with my pain, that's raps. And I went through the scariest time of my life alone. And I'm like, maybe that was a sign, because granted, I was supposed to quote unquote leave this month, but it was a misdiagnosis. I'm sitting there thinking, if I didn't get that diagnosis or the misdiagnosis when it happened, would I have learned all the things that I learned this past year? Or would things still be just going, I'm just going along for the ride, just kind of going through the motions because I'm 36 and I'm like, oh, okay, I can just deal with it as life. I'm settling, whatever. Would I have
That's
learned
deep.
what I learned now? Probably not. I would have been in the same position. So
It's very deep. That's very deep. Wow. Okay. So she basically bailed out on you this year. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that how
well,
everything kind of ended? Because you really just saw the mask fall completely off. It sounds like she just dropped it.
yeah, it was that. And I finally told her after we broke up, I told her what I was dealing with. And the timing of when we ended things or when she ended things is insane. Like, no, I don't care. I'll just throw it out there. Our anniversary is a certain day. The breakup was the very next day, like in the morning, the very next morning. Mind you, it's the same time that I learned that I started getting info that my diagnosis was actually a misdiagnosis. So I'm getting this news the same day that we break up.
Wow.
So it's a lot to process. And I didn't tell her then what I was dealing with. I ended up telling her like a few days later because we ended up signing a lease in the place we're at now, like a few months back. So I'm still there until June. So we're still in the same household. But it's awkward because, like I said, when the breakup happened, there was no fight. We argued a lot leading up to it. And like I said, I don't want to, I forgot to say this is the caveat. I'm not saying I didn't do anything wrong in our relationship. Like, I had my moments too where I did some stuff that I probably shouldn't have done, whatever. Like, but the difference was there was no, I got to learn from somebody else what happened or he's hiding anything. No, I'm sitting you down. Hey, look, this is what happened. And I want to have the conversation. We need to talk about it. Like, because I remember how I felt when I went through this. We supposedly best friends. We've been knowing each other since we was kids. I'm thinking we're at that point. We can talk about whatever. It wasn't that. I was always open about how I felt. I always said, I don't like your attitude. Sometimes you get angry a lot, yelling, but the people wouldn't see that part. People would only see her being quiet and nice. The yelling and screaming is only behind closed doors. And I'm the only one that experiencing this. So when we break up, everybody thinks it's his fault. Or he did this, he did that. And then people don't know, like, I have a lot of, I'll say, voicemails where she's called me after the breakup, the yelling and screaming, whatever. But people are thinking, oh, well, he won't, because she's telling people, oh, he don't take no for an answer. And that's the part of the narcissist thing too. Now they're demeaning your character to other people. They're saying you're a certain way. And then you start to question yourself, wait, am I a narcissist? Because she's making it seem like I'm.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah. And I firsthand learned that recently, where people who I thought were really my people, like family, believing everything she's saying, and then I'm having to go back and show and prove, hey, look at this text. Listen to this voicemail. Look at this video that we had when we had this event. Look at all of this stuff. Oh, man, I ain't even know. My bad. Nah, now we can't be cool because you took her away. You supposed to be my people. I don't even act like that. You believe? Okay.
Yeah. It
So,
shows you. It shows you who your real friends and who your real people really, really are.
Right.
It really do. It really do. I do have a random question, which I gotta ask you. I ask this in all my interviews when we talk about these relationships. What was your sex life like from the beginning to the end to now?
Yeah. So
what was that like? Yeah.
So in the beginning, of course, we 19. I'm an athlete.
Right.
Still.
Y'all were, yeah. Okay. Right.
And we in there like
right.
regularly. Something happened with that too, but I'll leave that. But we were, it was very active. And then I'm going to say maybe year like 5 or 6, it was beginning to be used as a weapon. I'm mad, so I don't want to do this. Or you made me upset. I don't want to do X. Is that now? Mind you, as a guy, and I can be honest about this. So when I said I'm not, I'm at fault of certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I did step out. Because this is year 16, so year 14, I had an incident where I did do something, and I'm not. And I number one, I've never sat there. Oh, hey, I'm blaming you. It was because of this. Never did that. She'll never be able to get up and lie and say, "Oh, he said it was." I blame me. I chose to do it. It was on me. But like I said, year 5, our relationship, it starts being thrown around as a weapon. I'm mad, or we ain't doing this tonight. We ain't this. We ain't that. So, like I said, you got to think about this. A healthy male athlete. I'm just dealing with it. Me and her ain't doing that. I'm not stepping out. I'm not dealing with nobody. I'm not doing none of that. And I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, he lying." Nah, and people who know me can tell you, I am not. I was always Mr. Faithful. I was always that guy. And then it got to a point where we doing it, but now it's like almost like it's what would you call it? Just because. Like it's a job. I'm gonna just do it just because this and that is here and there. And then now, because I've gotten used to not doing it so much, it was like now things are starting to irk me about it. Now I'm looking at that, and she got her clothes just laying in the corner. Man, I don't even want to do that now. You look filthy to me. Now I'm starting to look at her different.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to, in my mind, I'm finding a way to reason with, even though she's the one who's in control, obviously she's the one who's in control of sex. I am finding a way in my mind to process. It's like survival tactic in a sense. Okay, well, I'm gonna figure out. Well, I don't want to do nothing with you either because this room is dirty. Or, I don't like how your attitude was today. No, because now it started getting to a point where she'll ask me, "You want to do something tonight?" Nope, I sure don't. I don't want to do nothing. Like, because it was kind of like the tit for tat in a way, but then I really started feeling that way. Like there were the red flags we were discussing started becoming really bright, and I was just like, "Man, I'm a grown man now. Like I don't want no woman like this. Like I don't want what she's presenting." And I'm like, to me, it's new. But I'm thinking back, like, no, it's always been like this, but it's because of what you're dealing with now. Now that veil has kind of come down and that honeymoon phase is gone. Now you really get to see who this person is. There's a lot of stuff that I just didn't like. So I want to say for a whole year, last year, and mind you, this is when I had my health scare, when I got that news. We didn't have sex at all. Like there was no affection, no nothing. Like I just didn't want to do it because I'm literally dealing with a life or death situation. My mind couldn't be further from even thinking about any of that. I'm like, yo, I might not be here in a couple months. So yeah, it stopped. Like I said about it, a whole year went by and it just stopped. And I just I didn't even want to do anything anymore. Even before that, there were conversations we had and I just would be like, no, I don't want to do it. I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like it. And I'm sleeping in the other room and all that. And it wasn't because of, like I said, with me dealing with the other young lady that I had my infidelity with. It wasn't that. Me and her stopped talking it's been like after that happened, maybe 2 weeks after that, once, my girl at the time, we discussed everything that went on. Me and that other girl just literally no conversation, no nothing. We just cut ties. We don't speak. None of that. Like we're just not involved at all. I don't see this girl at all. But even afterwards, I didn't feel right, even with that. Cause I'm like, I've always been that guy, like I said, the faithful dude. But I remember my mom telling me this as a kid. She was like, or as I got a little bit older, if you feel like you want to physically or like step out on your girl, she said, even, she said, I told your sister this, anybody you with, if you feel like you want to physically step out on them or do something like that, the infidelity stuff, you might need to have a conversation with yourself and them and figure out if you even want to be with them or not. With learning about a person being a narcissist, you learn about those, I guess, the tactics they have to kind of like push you away and then they'll try to reel you back in, all that stuff. That we've never had, other than when I broke up with her the first time, we've never had a moment like that. You know, people say, I'm gonna take a break and all that. I always told her, I'm not doing that break stuff. Either we together, we not. Like, I'm not with the games and all that. So with this, to me, I don't know if it's a tactic or not, but we haven't spoken in like, it's been a whole month. Like, I've said nothing to her. I'll see her. And even if I'm in the room, like say I'm in my room and she's in hers, if I hear her door open and I'm walking out, I'll close my door and wait till I hear her leave. Then I'll come out. Or, you know, it's just, so mentally, I'm not gonna lie, I've been all over the place. Like, I'm not an overly emotional person, and I can be real with this because I know we're talking about it, but I'm sharing this because I'm thinking somebody else might be going through this. I don't think I've ever, not even I don't think, I've never cried this much in my life.
Oh.
Like, it's not even the fact that I'm like sad over her or anything like that. The amount of pain that I went through and that I'm still going through. Because even I haven't talked about like my financial situation and what happened with all of that job I had, like all these things that I lost right before this happened. I'm not even upset with us not being together. It's the fact that I was with this person and I spent so much time and effort and energy helping this individual get to where they are. I'm not going to say I took responsibility for everything she's got because I'm not that type of dude. But I know for damn sure, and this has been confirmed by people who know her and family members of hers, we don't think you would be where you are if he wasn't around because you were on the path of something else. And I never really, I never boasted about that. I was never like, oh, if you weren't for me, you wouldn't, like, I wouldn't say that. It started kind of coming out like that towards the end because she would say little slick things. I'm like, wait a minute, you know, if hold up, don't talk like, because you are where you are now. You can kick me while I'm not where I'm supposed to be at. But you got to remember, while you're doing whatever you're doing, there was a lot of stuff that if we weren't together, it's not happening. It's a lot of things that aren't happening. And this isn't just me talking. The person who you work for, the people who you work for have said this to us both in our face. Saying, man, if it weren't for him, I don't think you would have. He did a lot. And it's like to go from that to now I'm literally rock bottom. I got to figure out life. And to hear somebody say, you know, I don't want to do this no more because of X, Y, and Z, you know, it's tough. You feel away because it's like I gave you everything. Like if I'm in a relationship, I give it my all. Like, you know, I guess the mentality of a person who's an athlete or in sports, like you learn to give it your all. You put everything you got into it. And just the fact of me going through all of these emotions, like you go through, it's literally like a person passing. Somebody told me that, you know, going through a breakup or especially dealing with somebody who's like a narcissist type of.
It's a grieving.
Yes. It's tough. This has been rough, but I do a lot of, not the typical thing like, you know, painting, but I am an artist. You know, I paint a lot.
Okay.
I had a little art business that I was trying to, you know, get going, all this other stuff. But it's like,
good for you.
Yeah, it's been, but it's been a journey. It definitely, and it ain't even been that long, but I'm, up and down, up and down.
Oh my goodness. Well, I truly appreciate you being brave enough to share this story and tell the truth and be vulnerable and transparent because it needs to be heard. You know, like you mentioned, somebody somewhere needs to hear that they're not alone, they're not crazy, and that they're gonna be okay. And that they just got caught up in something they didn't really know about or understand, and now we're figuring it out. We're putting this thing together, and we're trying to move on in our life the best way we can, even as painful as it is. Man, it's time for us to really, you know, just take our power back and walk in our light and start getting the things that we deserve for the good that we've put out with these people, these entities, these creatures.